I'm not sure if that's good or bad, because you're going to have to see me a lot. But thank you for coming today. As I was preparing for this, I'm thinking, we need about 5 sessions. So trying to put all of that into one session of an hour is going to be a challenge. I hope I can just give you some ideas, some thoughts about what you can do. Many of you do have gardens that are continuous bloom, and so you can add to what I have to say, because the more people that have experienced it, everybody's got different ideas. I am not a professional speaker, so you're getting what you paid for today. First of all, what I thought of was think. Because if you want to plan for continuous bloom in your flowers, you have to think about what you're doing. And first of all, where do you want to have it? Do you want it close to the house? Do you want it far out by the trees? Do you want it, wherever? You have to think about that and where the water is. Because if you want the flowers out there and your water's over here, you're going to have a lot of work. So you have to think about that when you're planning these things. Do you want it to be a shade garden? Do you want it to be a sunny garden or a part shade, part, whatever? You have to think about that because different plants have different requirements. For the sunshine, also for the moisture, which I kind of alluded to, but if you have a low spot, you can put plants that are like moisture, like astilbes, and there's a number of them that do like to have moisture. And planting those kind of plants together helps you too, because if you've got one wet one and one dry one sitting next to each other, or drought tolerant, that's not going to work. And I know one year I planted dahlia bulbs, and it was kind of dry, and so I thought, oh, surely they need water, and I killed them because I overwatered them. So you have to think about these things when you decide what you want to do. Also, why you want to do it. Do you want it just for a little bit of beauty in a small spot? Do you want it off your patio and have fragrance? So when you have friends come over, the garden smells so nice. So you need to think about those kind of things. Now, they talk about how trees and shrubs are your backbone of your garden. So if you're thinking big, you're going to want to have trees involved in your garden or shrubs. And if you're thinking small, then you go with the shrubs. And if you're thinking small, you go with one. If you're thinking big, you go with, the numbers. So whatever you want, but you need to have either trees or shrubs in your garden. And they provide color. You think about in the spring, the flowering crab apples, in the spring there's all kinds of trees, and actually that goes right into the middle of the summer. There's the catalpas are one of the last trees to blossom. And so you have to kind of think about that, because when you're thinking seasonal bloom, you've got from March until October, November. That's a long time. So a tree like a pin oak holds their leaves and their color until late in the year, so that's a good tree to have for the fall. And if you read all your little labels and stuff, it'll tell you, or do some studying in books. Some things are 3-seasonal even. They'll have flowers in the spring, then they have colors, a brighter color in the summer, and then they go red or gold in the fall. So you can think about these things when you're planning your garden as to what you might want. Do consider though, if you have trees, and they're going to get big, you're going to have shade, and you have to think about what will grow underneath there. You can't just stick anything under there, even with the shrubs. They need to have different kinds of light. So then thinking about the seasons, and that's probably the biggest thing, is how do we get flowers to grow all season long? Because you've got early flowers, you've got early spring, you've got mid-spring, you have late spring, and then you have early summer, midsummer, late summer, And then I'm just going to call it fall. But that late summer, fall kind of go together sometimes. And a season people don't think about very much is winter. But you need to have something in the winter to look at. Who wants to look at just snow? You know, we see enough of that. And so for winter, one things you can do, looking at your trees, of course, you have, when they lose their leaves, they're beautiful, just their branches. So things like dogwood, this has the red twig dogwood. You've got that color in a shrub. You can have, you can have evergreens. And I have in my garden, I've been trying to start that, and I'm going to pass around a couple of, but you want to get shrubs that don't get real big. This globe arborvitae I've had for, golly, 10 years maybe. I've never trimmed it. It's the size it said it was going to be. And it stays beautiful, nice and round. Then there's some cypress and some others. These take just a little bit of trimming, but they're a nice size for the garden size that I have.
What's the name of this one again, please?
That's a globe arborvitae. Globe, because it's round.
There it is, right there on the back.
I tried to write on the back of most of these. Usually plants will get to be the size they say, but not always. So it's almost better to go for something that's going to be smaller. It's okay if it's smaller, but if it gets bigger and you got to do a lot of pruning, then I don't know if you might either get rid of it or decide you want to prune, one or the other. But also, rocks look nice in gardens, and the snow, when it covers a rock, is so pretty. And it's when it's on the shrubs, the evergreens, you know, with that nice dusting, is so pretty. The thing you have to think about, I'm sorry, these aren't perfect pictures, by the way, they're just, but hopefully you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. Here's another one that has a bird bath in it, and so that looks nice in the wintertime. So these are different things that you can think about for your winter, is just looking at kind of artsy kind of things. But now we'll go back to early spring, midsummer, and on and on. And that's where it takes some work. Either picking somebody's brain, or our library has the most wonderful assortment of books and magazines. And in fact, I've decided not to even buy magazines anymore, because why not when I can just get them from the library? But you just have to do a little studying. I have a book here that's called Continuous Bloom, and I'm going to give this to the library, and it takes you through the whole year of different things that are basically in our area. I got this when I took a class, and so you'll be able to check it out. And it's really nice because it's got big pictures in it of what they look like. So early spring, most everybody thinks of daffodils and tulips, but you got to think early spring, mid-spring, and late spring, because they all come in that way of growing, because you don't want necessarily all of them to bloom at the same time. And so when you're going to purchase things like that, you want to look to see when they bloom. And so that takes care of early, mid, and late spring for the tulips and daffodils. But you know, there's other things too. There's grape hyacinths. Grape hyacinths, those little guys are only about this tall, and a little cluster of purple. And they, right now, are greening up. So right now, we've got fall color in these little spikes that are coming up, and they will stay that way all winter. And then in the spring, they'll bloom with your flowers. And so this garden that I'm passing around now with a pump, I have about 5 different layers in it. It starts out in the spring with scillas, and it's just loaded with those blue scillas. They're just little guys like this. And then they go from the scillas, they go into the tulips. I've got red tulips, and they go around the circle, and then they go off in front of the house, with occasionally yellow one in there. And I thought, oh, maybe I should get that out so they'd all be red. But you know, it looks kind of cool to see one yellow one here and one yellow one there. So I've left them. I also have and then it's the red tulips, and then when they're finished, I have white iris that grows in that same bed around behind the tulips. And so they kind of cover up the leaves of the tulips. And there's also some red hyacinth in there, and then, or red dianthus. And then I plant purple Victoria salvia. And the last 2 years they've come back on their own. They've reseeded themselves, which just makes me very delighted. And so I have kind of a red, white, and blue theme going in this garden. And then once they are done, then I have alyssum that comes back on its own. And it'll be white now until the frost kills it, or actually snow gets it, because that lasts so long and it smells so good, and the iris smells so good, and it's outside my kitchen window. So it's probably my favorite garden that I have. But you can think layers like that, and you just put them in different places. One thing I do with my tulips, except in that garden, is I mark where they are, so I know where they are. So if I want to plant something, I'm not digging them up. And forks work for, little plastic forks work for tulips, spoons work for daffodils, and a knife works for an allium. So then I know what I've planted where. Although I have to replace them periodically, because sometimes I step on them and they break that kind of thing. But also, you can do things with seeds. And this is also a spring thing. These are purple larkspur and pink poppies. They're annuals, and I just collect the seed and reseed, and they reseed themselves too. And it's I have a pump on the top, and then it comes down, and there's a metal thing that goes around it, so it's like a terrace. And so it starts out in the spring like that, and right now it looks like this. And these also are seeds, just zinnias and cosmos. And there you go, you got a nice difference, and you utilize the same space. So that's a thought for you.
Pink poppies.
Yeah, the double pink poppies, oh, they're just gorgeous, but they only last a day. But there's lots of them on it, so they last. The plant lasts quite a while. Okay, we think of a lot of flowers, but you know, the flowers of a perennial only last so long. The lilies will last this long, the hostas, whatever. And so while you're thinking flowers, you might want to think of foliage. And of course, at the hostas, a lot of people have gotten into that, and they do have a zillion colors. They've got, you know, but you can do that with many, many, many plants. There's all the different colors. They go from lime green to rust to, there's just so many different colors that you can have in your garden. And so what if they're not blooming? The foliage is pretty. Just like, actually, I think the hostas are pretty cool. They're flowers.
Yeah.
You know, they're so pretty. And so that's something that you can think about. Here is a lime-colored spirea, and so that kind of stands out. And I've got agastache, and that in the spring is so pretty purple. Pretty lime green. You get your pucheras or your coral bells. They come in about 20 different colors, and they are just awesome. And you know, their flowers really aren't much unless you plant a lot of them, but the foliage is just so awesome. You get purples and variegated and all kinds of things like that. And then also the size of your leaves. So, like, this is an elephant ear, and in the top of it, or about behind it, is a shrub that I bought at Green Scene, and I haven't a clue what it's called, so I'm sorry. But it's got tiny little leaves and tiny little purple flowers on it. So it contrasts the big leaves of the elephant ear. I should have planted it a little different, but that's part of gardening. You're never happy with where you put stuff. You always got to find a better place. When you're planting, you want to think of shape of the plant, not only, you know, round, but height. And some of them are weeping. I just got a weeping cherry, and you've seen a lot. That's become very popular, those weeping trees. And so that's another thought that you can have. Excuse me. Also another, like those silver, and I have lost my mind on this. There's silver mound, and then there's those silver flowers you put in, and you take them out to the cemetery with your geraniums and your petunias and marigolds. They put them in a pot, but they're silver. And that's a good contrast in the gardens to bring out some color. And I think there's probably some in one of the pictures that's going around.
You thinking Dusty Miller?
Dusty Miller, that's it. Yes, exactly. I need an A, B, C. When I pick which one it is, I can do that.
You have to take those elephant ears out.
Oh, yeah, you have to. Yeah. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
One of mine rotted.
Oh.
It did. It didn't get very big in it. I thought, what's the matter with you? Well, it's rotting.
Oh, that's too bad. Well, I had 3 bulbs, and this one's the one that's doing the best. But it took me a long time to get it in the garden, so I have only myself to blame. There's other things that bring height to your garden. There's arbors, and there's your trellises. I showed you the terrace idea. Pots, you can use pots. Just set a big pot out instead of a little pot in the garden, and you bring your garden up, and then you can have stuff around that. And hanging plants, you can put a stick out or a shepherd's hook out there and hang some plants if you like pots and are willing to take care of them. Because they dry out real fast and you gotta spend a lot of time. I personally am not a pot person, but I don't have time to keep track of them. God's got to take care of my flowers, and He does a great job. Does anybody have any questions so far? Yes?
I have, when I put my garden, it's just a little patch, a 3-cornered patch. The pine tree wasn't that big. It was on somebody else's property. So at the time, I put flowers back there, but now I have all those pine cones coming down. But what do? Just forget it? Put it in grass?
Well, you have to make a decision there. Which is the most important to you? Do you have the energy to go out there and get all that stuff cleaned out?
No.
We all have to be realistic. And,
Yeah. Could I put bushes out there then? Would that work?
You could put some bushes out there.
And the pine?
But if it's straight under the pine tree, it won't work.
Yeah. I think I'm just going to have to put it back in.
Either that or just let it go natural. I mean, is there something wrong with having pine cones and pine needles underneath a pine tree? And then bring your bed, make your bed come out further. So it's not underneath that.
Yeah.
And that would cover up some of that stuff if you don't like the looks of
Yeah,
it.
well, the pine tree's over here, and then there's a space, and then I'm here, so, yeah, I gotta do something. I just thought maybe you'd come across some wonderful
Well,
flower that like.
I've got my card over there. If you want me to come and look at your house and see if I can come up with something, I'll try. I won't guarantee it, but, you know, I'm trying to check things out for people and see if there's something that I can help them with. And that kind of comes to the point of, you know, when you're thinking of your garden, how much work do you want to put into your garden? You know, and I don't see too many people that are really young here today, like in their 20s and 30s. They've got a lot more energy, although they don't have the time, so who knows. But, you know, as we're getting older, we have to think about how much time we want to put into our garden. And I've kind of let my garden go, and it's full of stuff, and I don't have to weed but just the front. So I kind of like that. Just have to be patient, but basically there's not too many weeds in that big garden that I have. However, I've got other gardens that do. And also along that line, picking out your plants, you kind of need to know, are they an invasive plant? Somebody gave me obedient plants, let me tell you. They are anything but obedient. They have taken over. It is the one weed I have, but it's got a root, looks like a carrot. And I've tried just killing them off on top, and you gotta go down a shovelful and hope you get the whole thing. It's a horrible thing, but at least nobody else knows it. It's pretty purple bells when it rolls. But we do have to think about those things. How much space, how much will they expand? And when you're planting them, you have to think that way. If you want them to look like, there's a picture of some hostas going around, and there's one here, there's one here, and there's one here. And I know they're going to get bigger, but they're not going to get huge. But my other garden, everything just packed in. And, well, I guess it kind of looks like this. This is the summer. This is phlox and lilies. And right now, we've got the asters and some other stuff that's in there. The phlox are still going. Phlox are great because they last a long time.
That's what I'm gonna get, I think.
Lots of different colors of them. The asters, now this is two varieties of asters. The little ones are the perennial, and the big ones are seeds, they're annuals. And they spread like crazy, but they pull out real easy. And right now they're all blooming, and it's just a mass of purple colors and a little bit of pink in with those. And then there's the brown-eyed Susans, they're blooming right now. And they take, anything that takes care of themselves just works for me. Here's a little flower bed that I have. It's with a river birch. I have a bird bath and the rock, and then flowers that bloom at different times. There's Johnny Jump Ups bloom in the spring, so right now it looks kind of bare where they were because they don't survive through the heat of the summer. There's a couple of hostas. There's a reblooming Stella daylily. There's perennial geraniums in the back of it, and so it kind of gives you color all year round. I could plant pansies now, because pansies like cool weather. And so I could put some pansies in there to give it some color. And you know, the other side of it is, too, in planting gardens is, do you want, you know, all this color in one, or do you want to do it all in one place? This is across the north side of my house, and it's all the same hosta that's blooming right now. It's just awesome to see. 60 feet of hostas. Also pretty purple. There's other, well, here's part of a bed that I've got going. And it shows you the differences in heights that I have. I've got different kinds of trees. I started out with just ash trees, and then I added emmer maples. Emmer maples turn a beautiful red in the summer, or in the fall. I've got forsythias out there, so the gold in the spring.
Can the spirea be trimmed in the fall? My son keeps saying it should be trimmed in the spring.
Well, you know what? I thought you could do it any time, but I called Iowa State the other day, and they said no. And the reason is, it's like the roses that I read about, is you shouldn't trim roses now either. Let them go to their rose hips, because that's their thinking, winter's coming, I need to get ready for winter. And so if you cut them off, they're going to start sending out more leaves. And it's the same thing with the spireas. They said not to cut them
They've
now.
grown together and they're, can't even see my rocks.
In the spring, you got to do that. And you can do that real early in the spring.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about roundabout roses? Because if you keep cutting them, they'll keep blooming. It's too early to just be done with them, isn't it?
Well,
Mine are blooming fantastically now.
yeah, but just let them bloom. And then when they're done, just let them go to their rose hips. Let them go to seed. That's what I read.
Okay.
Obviously, it's your garden. You can
Yeah.
do whatever you want to. And if you want to cut some, that's perfect. But they say stop fertilizing them in August, the roses. And so you need,
Is
that
it
kind of
too
goes.
late to trim my lilac bush?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Should
your
do that
flower-
right after it blooms.
Right after you blooms for the flowering
Of
shrubs.
course, it didn't bloom, so don't know what to do with it.
Well, but you don't have to. You can trim it now, and you just know you won't get flowers next spring.
Yeah.
But if you trim it now, in 2 years, you probably will have some nice. You only take a third of it out, and you take the oldest, biggest, or dead stuff out. Let the new stuff come up. And it may be 2, maybe 3 years, depending on the situation. But you should get lilacs again.
Mhm.
But if you want them year after year, you have to trim them
Yeah.
right when they're done blooming. That's how they operate.
How about lily bulbs? I need to transplant some. Should I dig them up and wait till spring to plant them, or can
Oh,
I?
you can do that now.
Huh?
You can do that now.
Pick 'em
Just
up and-
dig deep enough, because a lot of lilies, they go really deep. I've cut off more lilies than I thought. I'm gonna bloom again right where they were next year, because I chopped, didn't get the bulb. So,
Do
but
you
yeah,
trim those down, Donna? Do you trim them down in the fall and the winter?
the lilies. It's kind of a personal thing. It's whatever you want to do. I often don't have time to go out and do that in the fall, and so I will do it in the spring. If it's the lilies, you can do anything you want to with them. Just let them die down first, though. Don't cut them off when they're still green. But once they've died, once their leaves have gone brown, you can whack them off. Yeah, because that's too artistic. At least to me. Artistic is in the eyes of the beholder, I guess. You know, one problem I found with some of my plants, and like these asters, is they get all brown and crappy down at the bottom. And so there's something to think about, is that you want to have something in front of them that will cover that up. Otherwise, it looks dead, you know, a third of the way down. And so if you get something that's that size that'll fit there, like the sedums, even your lilies, the daylilies, they still have their green stuff, so they'll cover up some of that. But that's one thing to think about, is what is your plant going to look like down the line? Just like the tulips and the daffodils, you're supposed to leave those leaves, you know, until they go turn yellow, which for daffodils takes forever. And so if you have something in front of them, then that will help cover up those leaves while they're drying off, and then you can take
Can I plant sedum in the fall or spring?
You probably could plant them anytime.
Okay.
Spring is better, but
Yeah. I like the joy one that looks so nice this time of year.
well, I discovered something this year. I've kind of had a theme in my mind. So I says, well, can you do it? I said, well, what have you got to lose? So that's what I did, and I did with my sedum, because they tend to get kind of leggy and then fall over. I cut them off, like you do mums, up until July. You can cut off mums, it'll make them thicker. Oh, did that make a difference? It was unbelievable. I think there's even a picture of one. They are just so nice and thick. And when the wind came, they're just sitting there, and the guys behind them, because I did it side by side to see what the difference would be, trying to be very scientific, and those guys are laying all over the place. So I thought, oh, I think I'll do this again. And I've also done it to the asters. I thought, what have I got to lose? And so I trimmed those back, and they got a lot bushier and not quite as high, because mine are like this high.
Wow.
They're just huge. The perennial asters? Yeah. So, it's your garden. You can do what you want to. If you want to try and experiment with something, do it. What have you got to lose? Well, let's see. What else can I expand on for you?
Tell me some perennials that would be good to put in this fall, that are going to give me some color next fall.
Well, your asters, of course. And I wouldn't plant mums now. I have not had good luck planting mums in the fall. I think they just don't get enough time to really get established. And every mum I've planted, it's been rare. I guess I may have one out there that survived. And I wouldn't plant iris right now, because they need to get established too. And if you don't have them in the ground where their roots are really holding on, the frost will come and heave them out, and before you can get out there, they're dead. So I wouldn't plant iris now if you can help it. If you do, you really have to be vigilant and go out there and make sure they're in the ground until it freezes. Let's see, fall flowers. There's some anemones that bloom in the fall. I saw some of those just the other day in a magazine that I threw away because I didn't want to be tempted to buy any more. Okay. One thing you can do is go around and just look around town and see what other people have. And see what looks nice. And picture where it's at, figure out which side of the house it is. Because there's some things that, like I said, don't do as well in the shade or in the sun. You can take Mary Ellen as an example. I've got a sand cherry we put in her front by her garage, and it's just, and then I have another one, same size, and I planted it where there was shade, and it's like this big. And while it looks okay in that garden, it isn't quite what we had in mind. But it said it would grow in the shade, so we planted it there. So you don't always know, but you can always change things. When you do plant though, you should start small. Don't take on a huge, unless you have a lot of energy, a lot of money, a lot of time, because you'll just get frustrated. Just do something, a couple things each year, change something around. If you don't like what something is doing, pull it up and either move it or give it away or throw it away, whichever works for you. And just change things gradually in your gardens versus, my garden is 22 years old, so it's taken me that long to get things the way they are. And some things die and some things don't. That's kind of the way things are. One thing I've had fun with is I planted a flower bed.
Great.
Those are cool. And then I'm married, so I have to allow my husband to have a few things too. And so this is his bird bath. It's right outside our dining, where we have breakfast. It's tire rims. And then he's got a dog dish on top that you heat electrically in the wintertime so that the birds can eat it. Then he covers it up so there's just a little space for them, a little stick for them to come out and step on to go get a drink. But, it's still artistic. Yeah, it's fun. We're a little redneck with our duct tape, but farmers like duct tape. I like to think though, we think about our gardens and wanting perennials in them, but a few annuals are nice too, for a little pop of color. And sometimes I plant only one, just for the color right there, and other times I plant several. Or like in my hosta garden, I put all red salvias, so they're all red, but they're hit and miss. I tried the Dusty Miller there. I thought, I'll make just a border. I didn't like that though, so I moved some of them, but it doesn't look as nice as I'd like it to be, but next year will be different. And those do survive, some of them. They'll survive in the winter.
I took some cuttings of the Dusty Miller last year, and I just put them in water all winter, and I had them to plant out.
Oh,
I
how
kept
cool.
them, some of them rotted, but
Sure.
I tried it, it worked.
Oh, how cool.
So they rooted, is that?
Yeah, just in water.
And another thing to do is to go to, there are so many gardens. There's, of course, our Hawkeye Community Garden, which I believe the 11th, they have their fall festival. And you can go up there and see many different things that they've done. Knoll Ridge down in Cedar Rapids, they will plant like a garden of cannas, and there's the red ones and the yellow ones and the orange ones and all the different colors so you can get an idea what things look like and how big they get.